So hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'll show you how to create a slider, quote slider with the help of React. If till now you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell. So here's the live demo of the project that we are going to create in our today's video. We are having a heading displayed up here. We are having a container in which we are having the user's image, and at the top of that user's image we are having a quote icon. Great. And we are having the user's name displayed, user's job title, and the user's informations related to the user displayed in our quotes slider. And the most important thing in our today's project is that the current and the previous data being displayed from a arrow. So as you can see, this is our next arrow and this is our previous arrow. When I just click on my next arrow, it will be displaying me the next data in my data.js file, and when I just click on the previous arrow, it will be displaying me the previous data in my data.js file. That's great. And now you will be confused. What does this surprise me button do? This surprise me button will be generating the random person from your data.js file. As you can see, when I just click on this button, it will be generating me the random persons from my data.js file. That's great. So that's only the project that we are going to create in our today's video. So without wasting the time, let's start creating our project. So I will be explaining you my project's file structure. As you can see, inside this source folder, we are having a CSS file in which we are having all of our stylings related to our project. We are having the index.js file that is rendering our app.js file to display it in our front end. And then we are having this data.js file. In that we are having a variable in which we are having an array, and inside that array we are having different objects, in which objects we are having the user's data, and all of the user's data have their own unique ID. And this is being exported as default reviews. That's it for our data.js file. Now let me come to my app.js file and display you the structure of this file. We are importing React from our React project. We are having a function up here that is returning a main tag. In that we are having a section in which we are having a div which is having a class name of title, and in that we are displaying our reviews, and we are having a div which is having a class name of underline, and he's having a styling for displaying an underline at the bottom of our heading. As you can see up here, it is being displayed up here. Great. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to import my review.js file in my app.js file, so I can display all of the things in my front end. So for that I will be coming to my review.js file up here, and I will be importing the React use state hook up here from React. Now I will be getting the data. That means I should get the data from my data.js file so I can display it in my front end. So for doing that, I'll be importing, and inside my data I'm having the people data, so I will be naming it as people because I'm exporting it as default, and I need the data from my data.js file. That's great. And now let me create a component up here that is going to be named as review. And a component or a function in React should return something. Alright, and now let me export it as default review and with a semicolon. Now we are having an error because we are not returning anything up here. So I'll be returning h1 tag that is going to display us hello world. Great. Now I'll be coming in our app.js file to display our review.js file in our front end, because this is only the main file that is being rendered in our front end. So let me come to my app.js file and let me import my review.js file up here. And where I need to display it, I need to display my review.js file after my div of the title ends up here. So let me just call it up here review, and let me close it. And now when I just save it and reload my web page, it should display me hello world, and as you can see it is being displayed. That is great. Now let's fetch the data from our data.js and display it in our front end. So for doing that, we are going to come to our review.js file up here, and we are just going to removing this heading one that is being displayed as default. And before this return, we are going to create two use state hooks variable up here. So let me create the first one that is going to be named as index set index that equals to, I'll be using the use state hook up here, and I'm going to provide it a default value that is going to be 0. Alright guys, so now second one, I'm going to create a const up here. We are going to be having the curl braces and what are the data that I need from my data.js file. So let me open my sidebar and let me open my data.js file up here. I need the name, I need the job, I need the image, and I need the text. Great. So let me enter up here. I need the name, I need the job, I need the image, and I need the text that is there inside my people that is being exported by default name, as you can see up here. And I will be having a square brackets. Now which data should get, I can provide it a value by default inside my array up here. I need to get the first data in my data.js file. I can add 0 up here, but I'm not going to do that. Instead this, I'm going to add a variable name that is going to be index, because that index variable is having a value of 0 stored inside the use state hook. That's great. Now let's start displaying our data in our front end. So for displaying the data in our front end, we are going to create an article which is going to be having a class name that is going to be named as review. Great. Inside that, we are going to be having a div which is going to be having a class name of image hyphen container, in which we are going to display the user's image. And now inside this, we need to display the image, so we are going to be using the image tag. We are going to be using the source that equals to the curl braces and the image key up here, and we are going to be having the alt value that is going to be the name of the user. And now let's add some styling to the image by adding a class name of person hyphen image. That's great. And now let me close the image tag, and now when I save it, it should display me the user's image. As you can see, it is being displayed up here. Now what I need to do is I need to display the quote icon at the top of the image. So for that, I will be using the help of react icons.github.io. The link will be provided in the description below. Just come to the link, scroll down, and install this react icons into your project by writing a command npm install react icons save in your terminal, and it will install the react icons in your project. That's it. And how will you use the image? So for using the image, we are going to import it. So we are going to be having the import, and we are going to be having the curly braces and whatever icons that we are going to be using up here. So we are going to be using the left arrow icon, right arrow icon, and a quote icon. So let me import up here. So chevron, the left icon, then chevron, the right icon. Great. And now we need to display the quote. So the quote right. Great. That will be imported from react icons, and then we're going to be adding the / font awesome link up here. Let me save it. That's it, how you're going to use the react icons in your react project. Now let me come to my project up here, and now I need to display the quotes icon at the top of my user's image. So for doing that, we are going to create a span tag which is going to be having a class name of quote hyphen icon. Let me just close this span tag, and I need to display the quotes up here. So let me just display quotes right / and the close brackets up here, or the greater than sign. Now when I just save it, it should display the quotes icon at the top of the user's image. That's great. So now let's start displaying the user's name, user's other informations. So I'll be coming outside of this image container, and we're going to be having the h4 tag, which is going to be having a class name of author to display the user's name, and the user's name will be displayed inside this curly braces. And now when I save it, it should display me the user's name. Now we need to display the user's job title up here. So we are going to be having a paragraph tag, which is going to be having a class name of job. Let me just close it. Inside this curly braces, we are having a key that is job, and now it should display me the user's job. Now I need to display the user's text, that means the user's information. We are going to be having a paragraph tag, which is going to be having a class name of info, because that's the information related to the user, and we need to display it as text. Let me save it, and it is being displayed up here. Great. Now what I need to do is I need to display the previous arrow, next arrow, and a random generation button. So for doing that, I'll be coming after my paragraph tag. Okay, after my paragraph tag, I'm going to create a div which is going to be having a class name that is going to be button hyphen container. Inside this div, we are going to be having our previous and our next person's button displayed up here. So let me create a button. Let me provide it a class name that is going to be previous hyphen button, or we can just use the short form that is going to be btn. And now let me just close this button. We are not going to add any on click functionality now to this button. To display the previous icon, I'll be using the fa chevron left. And now let me close it up here. Let me save it, and as you can see, it is displaying me the left arrow up here. Great. Same thing I'm going to do with our right, that means going to be our next button. So I'm just going to copy the button up here, paste after this button, change the class name to the next hyphen btn, the short form of button, and the fa chevron right. Let me save it, and it will be displaying me the right arrow up here. Great. Now I need to create a button that will be generating me the random person. So for doing that, what I'm going to do is I am going to create a button which is going to be having a class name as random hyphen btn. Great. And the text for this button is going to be surprise me. Great. Let me save it, and it will be displaying me the surprise me button. That's cool. So now let's add some functionality to our previous button, our next button, and our random button. So let's start doing it. So first add some functionalities to our next person and our previous person's data when the user clicks on the buttons up here. So before this return, I'm going to create a component. You can name it as next person. It depends on you. That equals to, we are going to be having the parenthesis, a fat arrow function up here. Inside this, we are going to create a set index. We are just going to set our index value to the value. So I'll be explaining it in a good way. That is going to be, this is a function. Alright, so inside this next button, this is going to be our next person. Okay, so this is going to be our next button. So when the user clicks on this button, so on click, that means when the user clicks on this button, we are going to call our next person function up here. Great. When the user is clicking on this button, we are calling this function. Inside this function, we are going to set our index value. So we are going to be having inside that parenthesis a fat arrow function. First, we are going to get the value that we are having by default. That is going to be our 0. Alright, and then I will be creating a new variable that is going to be let new index that equals to, I will be having my default value that we are having. I'll be incrementing it by 1 and I will return it. New index. Great. Now what is happening up here? I have created a function up here. I'm saying when the user clicks on this button, we are calling this function, and that function we are setting our index number, because with the help of that index number we are generating our data. So I'm just setting that index number, I'm calling a fat arrow function, I'm getting the specific index that we are having, then I'm creating a new variable, I'm getting the default, that means the current index number, and I will be incrementing it by 1, and I will return my new index variable to my index variable value up here. So let's check whether it works or not. Let me save it, and now when I reload my page, and now when I just click on the next button up here, it should display me the next user's data, and that is happening. Great. Same thing I will be doing with my previous button. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the component or a function which is up here and paste after my next person, and I will name it as let me name it as prev, that is going to be the previous person. Great. And I will be just changing the operator from the plus to the minus operator. Great. Let's save it, and now let's add the on click functionality to the previous button up here. That means when the user clicks on the button up here, we are just going to call the previous person function up here. So let's save it. Let me reload my React project, and now when I just click on the previous button up here, it is not displaying me any data because there's no data up there, and we are getting a big fat error. We'll fix this after some times. Let me reload my project back again. Let me come to my next project. That means the next data, and we are getting the data. And now when I just click on the previous button, it should get me the previous data, and that is being fetched. Great. That means our index value is being changed. But when I just go to my last item up here, and now after that if I just click on the arrow up here, we are going to get a big fat error because we are not having any data to be displayed in our front end. That's why we are getting an error. So we are just going to create another function for it. That is going to be our check number function. That means if our length of our data is ended and the user is still clicking on the next button, we are just going to display the first data. So let's do that. So for fixing this error, we are going to come before our next person function up here and create a function that is going to be named as check number. Great. That equals to, we are be having this fat arrow function up here, and we are going to pass it an argument that is going to be number. Great. And now we are going to be using the if statements up here. So if our number is greater than people, that means our data that is being imported as the people's default name dot length. So now what's happening up here, I'm saying if my number that we are having, the number is greater than our people's length, our data's length, we are just going to minus it by 1 and return the first data. We are just going to minus it by 1 and return it a value that is going to be 0, and it will be stored in our index variable, and it will be displaying me the first data in my data.js. Same thing I'll be doing with our previous functionality. If our number is less than 0, what I'm going to do is I'm going to return my people's dot its length minus 1. I will explain you, no worries. I'm saying if my number is less than 0, that means if my first item is there, and if I just clicking on the previous button, it was providing me a fat error. What I'm saying is to return my length of my data, just return me the last one. So I am using the minus 1, and it will be displaying me the last data in my data.js file. And now let me return this number, so it will be returned to my index variable. That's it. Now still the functionality is not added, so now I need to check this number function whenever I return my new index. So let me just check my number function, and inside that function we are going to pass our new index variable. So it will be checking that number, and then it will be returning our new index. Great. Same thing I'm going to copy from here and remove this new index and paste it up here. Now let me save it and reload my React project. And as you can see, when I just click on the previous button up here, because this is my first item, it should display me the last item up here, and that is being displayed. That's great, because it is just returning me the length of the people minus 1. Great. And now when I just click on the next, we are going to get our first data. Next, next, next. This is our last item. Now when I just click on this next button up here, it will be displaying me the first person in my data.js file, as you can see up here. That's great. Really lovely and awesome. Now let me add the random person functionality. That means when the user clicks on the surprise me button, we need to generate the random data from our data.js file. So before our return and after our previous person function, I'm going to create a component that is going to be named as random person that equals to curve fat, that means the parenthesis fat arrow function up here. Great. And now I'm going to create a variable that is going to be the random person, or we can just name it as random number to generate a random number and display it in our front end. So let random number that equals to, we are just going to be using the math.floor method up here. And inside this math.floor, we are going to be using the math.random function to generate the random numbers. And inside this random parenthesis, we are just going to add a multiplication, and we are going to call our data that is being imported as a default name people its length. Great. And now let me end it with a semicolon. Now what I'm seeing up here, when the user clicks on this surprise me button, we are going to call this random person function. In that, we are going to create a new variable that is going to be random number, that is just going to generate me a random number, and that will be stored in our index variable and display me the data. And inside this, we are using the math.floor function. Inside that math.floor, we are using the math.random function. We are adding and multiplying it by the length of our data.js. Great. And after that, we are going to be using if statement, because what's happening now? You have seen, if you have just go through with the basics of the React, that means if you're using the math.random method up here, if you're just generating the random number, one number will be repeated many times. We don't need that. We not need to repeat the same data again and again. That random method does. So let's fix it. So for that, we are going to be using the if statement, and we are going to be using the random number up here. If our random number's value is same that we are having in our index, we are just going to select a random number, and that equals to whatever value we are having before. We are just going to increment it by 1. Great. And now let's set our index, because in that only we need to set our random value. So in set index, I'll be using my check number to check my number. If by mistakenly that data is not there, it should not display me the error. Got that? So I'm just going to use this function up here, and inside that I'm just going to call my random number variable. Great. That will be assigned to my index variable, and it will be displayed in my front end. Let me save it. Now when I just click on the surprise me button, nothing is going to happen because we have not added the on click functionality to the button up here. So I'm just going to come up here, and let me say, when the user clicks on the button up here, we are going to call the function that is going to be named as random person. Let me save it. And now when I just click on surprise me, it is going to generate me the random person data that is there inside my data.js file with the help of the math.random method. That's great. So that's it for our review slider up here. As you can see, it was really amazing. It was beautiful. You have learned more advanced tools, advanced things about React in this single video. If you like the tutorial video, or if you like the video, please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell. And I will see you in the next video. Till then, peace.